Great. Hey, good morning. Welcome, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Quarantine Leadership Series. We've been absent for a long time, but it's great to be back, and it's great to be joined by Doug McMillian, recently retired CEO of the YMCA of the Triangle. Many of you probably heard the term 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, but there's 5 degrees of Doug McMillian. Doug knows everybody and has some connection to he's 5 degrees from everybody watching this. He has some connection to you. And so, Doug, what's your secret to doing that, of just knowing so many people or having connections with so many people?
Well, Cam, thank you. Thanks for having me here. And that's an interesting question. I just always have been curious about other people. I have in high school, I remembered just everybody's name in high school. I paid attention to who the seniors were when I was a sophomore. I paid attention to who the sophomores were when I was a senior. And the world's sort of dull if you don't know people, don't connect to people. I went to Wake Forest, and it's a fairly small college, about 3,000 people there then. And it was just fun to connect to people, hear their stories, know them. And it's just always been a part of me to try to know who's who and how people are connected. It makes life fun and rich when you understand how people are connected.
And also, it really brings to light the world is small. We are all connected somewhere or another.
Well, we are. I mean, we are. If you just ask 2 or 3 more questions, deeper questions about people, you'll find that your paths may have crossed with them sometime in the place, or your interests are very common and similar, and it's just worth asking those deeper questions.
Yeah, just in my community, Doug went to college from somebody in my community, worked early in his career teaching school with somebody in community, and is distantly related to one of my board members at one of my branches. His family lives in our community. And so there's just always.
And recently, Cam, I found somebody who wanted to give money to your wife as well.
And did give money to my wife. So yeah, they're a great connection. So I hope everybody finds their 5 degrees to Doug. Doug, give us the chronology of your long career.
Well, I'm a native of Raleigh, and my first experience with the Y was swim lessons, and it wasn't very successful. An after-school program, I didn't like it. So as a child participating at 10 or 11, I didn't enjoy the Y. But in junior high school, I began participating in high Y, with junior high Y and junior high school, and high Y in high school. And from the high Y program, I was invited to work at Camp Seafair when I was summer after my junior year in high school. I actually was recruited for the kitchen at camps, not knowing where I was going to work. But I ended up being assigned to Camp Seafair, and that was in 1968. I stayed with the for 13 years through college and through teaching school for 7 or 8 years. And then I shifted to the Y side of the organization in about 1980. And so then I was worked in youth programs, helped open the Findlay Y and the Cary Y, and then became the CEO in 1993. The Y was very small then, not nearly as complex as it is now. I'm not sure I could get the job I just recently retired from today. It's too complex, but in 1993 it was a smaller organization, and we were lucky to grow it from there.
Yeah. How many total years?
From 68 to through the end of 23, so 55, I guess. Counted summer. It's the first 13 were summers only, marrying with college and with teaching school. But that's mostly what the Y was in those years. The Raleigh Y had 1 branch and 2 large camps, and so camp was the energy center of the Y, and it fit really well with my teaching schedule.
Man, that's great. That's awesome. Unbelievable. What motivated you? What intrinsically to get up, post college, 40 plus years, to come to work every day?
Well, fun is people, and it's difference making. I recognize that I could make a difference in the lives of people. I was meeting more and more people all the time. I shifted from working with children to working with staff, part-time staff, to working with volunteers. And it's all the same work in a sense, but it changes as you age and changes as your accountability moves. But it's working with people, shaping them, helping them find their goals, and helping them find their direction. And then, a real motive also is once you have kids and a family, you got to get up and you got to go to work. You got to make money to cover the bills that those kids bring home to you.
Yeah. That's great. That's our generation. You can feel it. That was a lot about how we were motivated.
Oh, yeah.
Who've been your mentors in your life, in your career?
Well, you sent me that question in advance, and it's interesting. The people that shaped me when I was teaching, I remember how I was motivated to be prepared to serve the children in the class. I had some really, really bright kids and had some really, really slow kids. I had to teach in a pep rally method because a lot of the kids couldn't read. And so it was just a lot of give and take. Who's the first president of the United States? George Washington. That's got it. Okay. Now, and then next question there, go from there. So I taught the Civil War, taught the American Revolution through that pep rally storytelling. But it had to be prepared because the kids deserved a great preparation. When I started working at the Y, there were several strong mentors. One was the dietitian of Camp Seafair. She was probably didn't have a college degree. I know she didn't have a college degree. She had a dietitian's degree. She just was so well prepared every day. She had high expectations for us, and I embraced those high expectations that she gave us. Then the people that were running the operation, Lil Taylor, in particular, Wyatt Taylor, they were inspirational leaders in different ways. Lil was more of a leader to me and a motivator to me than Wyatt was. And then the peers around me, Judy Bright, huge motivator, Tracy Howe, huge motivator. And there are people like Lisa Humphreys who had more expectations for me than I had of myself, and she would just set expectations hard. A lot of volunteers were important. Other staff on the senior team. Brian Huffman was a great inspiration to me for a long time. Tim Joyce made a big difference in our Y and challenged me. As I work, Cam, some people want to have a team that all agrees with them. There's a book on Lincoln, Team of Rivals. And Lincoln's cabinet had different perspectives, and it challenged him. And I like that. I like the idea of having different voices, different leadership styles around me. And volunteers always are inspirational. Those that give their time, and some that are just give their advice and counsel. They're just remarkably important assets to the Y, and have been very important assets to me. I think a couple of them signed in blood, "Don't let Doug McMillian mess up," and they just stayed with me for a long time and guided our Y in good ways.
Man, that's great. The leadership lesson right there is many of those people he mentioned led up. There are people that in the below you, so there's great opportunities to mentor up, not just mentor down.
Oh yeah. You have to listen to those right around you, and sometimes I listened well, sometimes I didn't listen well. Everybody around you doesn't know the other things that are on your plate and how fast you can move or how fast you can't move because there's another pressure. But you got to have diverse voices coming to you to help you grow and help the Y grow.
That's good. What's the best leadership advice you got from that group, or just in your work world?
That's a tough question. Frank Scott was a great mentor of mine, and he was an investor with Merrill Lynch, and just a great coach and mentor. And he would very quietly say things that that guided me. One, I went to him with a tough problem one time, and he said, "Well, Doug, just wait on it a while. A lot of things take care of themselves with patience." And sure enough, that's true. And I probably have too much patience. I think the staff around me would often wish that I would act more quickly. But time takes care of lots of things. People work out their own challenges and stuff. Another interesting question he did. He was a great philanthropist and a great encourager of philanthropy. And he said, "Doug, the relationships are most important. Get to know the people, care about the people, support the people. But some people don't know how to give, and that's okay. Still honor the relationship and care about them. So the relationship is more important than the whatever somebody gives to you. And again, be patient. Things may come in time." And so those are good bits of advice from Frank Scott.
That's great. Yeah, and you do get, in my career, I feel the same way. Volunteers have really, I've been blessed. They've given great advice and great counsel to me in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
So hopefully there's not only at the Y, the Triangle, there's people listening and watching that are on the first start of their career. And we've watched that not a lot of people are going to stay with the Y 40 plus years, going forward. But what advice would you give to the young people that may be watching this or that are starting their Y careers about having a career like yours or in the Y?
Well, so Tracy Howell retired earlier this month, and we had a nice reception for him and going away recognition. And in that, I highlighted Tracy, and I said that, and I think it's a part of my work too. But Tracy read his job description not for the words in the job description. He saw the job description as directional. He took on the job as a youth director, and he said, "My job is to impact as many kids as I can. It's not just run an after-school program, not do it this way, not do it that way. My job is to impact children." And then when he became a branch director, it was not do everything inside the walls of the branch, but it's to impact this community. And you impact the community inside and outside with your personal life and your professional life and the personal life of those around you. So a job description is directional. If you and in many cases, Tracy and many people in our Y have grown their own jobs. They have taken their job, seen it, and have exploded it. A day camp that 125 kids, they grew it to 400. After school program of 65 kids, they grew it to 2 and 3 after school programs. Sports leagues. Okay, I'm a sports director. I do basketball. Well, can we do soccer? Can we do softball? Can we do other things? And so they expand the programs. And so take your job description and read it as a direction as opposed to specific as a limiting factor. A job description is not the lid on top of the pot, but it's a stove, it's a gas or the electric burner underneath the pot. That's the job description. And so working that way. Second thing, try to stay close. If you're looking forward to growing your job, try to stay close and understand the challenges and the goals of the leaders above you, because they have a charge, they have a challenge, they have a strategic plan they're working through, and they have volunteer voices that are shaping the community, and you need to understand those voices as well. And wherever you are, work in that regard. Now, you'd asked earlier about staying in one community. I stayed in Raleigh because Raleigh's home. I grew up here. My father was born here. He'll be 100 in September. He's still here. I've got 4 brothers and sisters here. So Raleigh's home. And so I would have worked with our Y or some other organization in the community to try to do the same nature of that work. But there's great benefit to staying in one community because you get to know the community. You see generational leadership. We have kids that were in my programs years ago that are now volunteering in different ways. They're judges, they're lawyers, they're businessmen. And it's nice to see them, and women, businesswomen and men and women. And it's nice to see them grow and to feel like you had a part of their development. So it's just rewarding to be there. Now, I don't say everybody needs to stay in one community, because I've been lucky that our Y has been growing, and it's given me and lots of other people a lot of opportunity, and in growth and change and responsibility. But that can't happen in every community. But still, there's a lot to say for being the high school football coach that made a difference for 40 years, or the Y director that made a difference for 40 years in that community. Those people shape a community in remarkable ways.
So you and I both, we've been CEOs for 30 years at the same place. How did you stay motivated every day? I mean, I know you're growing and your Y's grown exponentially during that period, but what else? I mean, how would you say you survived that, or just did that? Not survive's not the word, but how do you stay motivated for 30? How do you say?
Some days it might be survived. And again, part of that, Cam, is putting really, really strong people around me and in our Y, and listen to their challenges. Our growth is not driven by me. It's not driven by me. It's driven by Brian Huffman, Lisa Humphreys, Bruce Ham, Tim Joyce, Tracy Howe, lots of other people who said, "Can we do this? Can we do this?" And I'm empowering them to do more, and empowering them to participate in the State Alliance, empowering them to participate in YUSA, and they grow. They bring back ideas and challenge us even more as we move forward. And so it's those around me are those that challenge me. Board and staff, both are those that challenge me.
Yeah, that's great comments. So what's your hope for the Y movement across our country, across our world? What's your hope for the future of the YMCA?
I hope that everybody realizes that we are one YMCA, and that YUSA and Cleveland County and Raleigh, we're all the same organization working for the same goals. We all have different challenges that face us locally, but we're all one YMCA, and I hope that we can sort of come together and recognize that spirit. There's going to be different presentations of the work in different in different communities, but the work is all the same, and so we should be one YMCA. I hope that I love the concept of membership, sense of belonging, and I've used others have too, but I've used a theme song from Cheers in staff meetings. Wouldn't you like to go where everybody knows your name and they're always glad you came? The spirit of the Y in membership there, but also recognizing that we can impact more people outside of our walls than we can inside the walls. And so getting out into the community through great programs we have, like Y Guides and Leaders Club and Youth in Government, in after school programs, youth sports, all of those programs that happen in the community outside of the Y have the same impact as, and really maybe more impact than participation in fitness inside of Y.
Well, Doug, thank you so much. I mean, everybody listening, Doug's truly, he's going to roll his eyes probably and say this, but a legend. And you've impacted the movement, not just the Y Triangle. You've impacted my Y, me personally. You've been a great leader and mentor for our state, not only for, again, your Y. So appreciative of the work you've done. So thank you for that. Thanks for everybody that's watching. Just make sure that if you want to subscribe to this channel and keep looking for more of these, we're going to get back into a better sequence, but just remember to always lead with love. Doug, thank you again for your time.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.